Uzi is dating her mother's murderer, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Dorman, those things killed your frickin' mother!
Like, I would be shocked by this if I didn't already know about it. And if you didn't, congrats on not paying attention. We've known this little tidbit since episode 1, that the motherboard, she got smashed, and we know the culprits. But it's fun to see the show finally say it, for us to realize this is the actual situation. And it's even better that N can't say what Uzi and him actually have going on, so he just writes it in his own blood. If these were different circumstances, Uzi's heart might have actually skipped a beat before she ripped it out of sheer embarrassment. For all people who doubted, all the people who said, no, they're siblings, no, they're friends, rip, sorry, suck it. NUZI is canon, but if it's any consolation, Uzi is turning into N's sister, so y'all were kinda right. Till you weren't. But this episode's full of more than just shipping reveals. We got twists, we got exposition, we're getting the answers to the mysteries and the surprise return of Uzi's sole parent, or at least the sole parent worth respecting. Not to mention the implication that this mess, for the first time in literary history, isn't all humanity's fault. Mostly because, well, they're all dead, and Sin has been behind all of this. This episode was crazy. NUZI is setting sail, so let's break down the ship and the other stuff, as I have to at least pretend to care about the rest of the show besides, you know. Thankfully though, it's not that hard, because this was really good. Now just gonna run through the events of the episode and give my thoughts as they become relevant. Tangents, rants, and shenanigans might ensue, which is a lie, as you know they will. So to kick things off in style, let's talk about that flashback. So you know shit's bad when the men of science have started to pray. And you kinda get it, as these guys, even if God isn't real in this universe, the devil definitely is. I feel like this episode is probably the definition of saying the quiet part out loud. Most reveals that happened have already been heavily hinted at. Like how Uzi and Doll's moms, Nori and Yeva, were experimented on by the humans infected with the absolute solver. But even while that piece of info was obvious, I think what this episode does really well is that it takes that info, then adds more context that makes the situation more interesting and providing answers to the oh so desperately needed why factor. As yeah, we knew humanity was doing the things, but we didn't fully know why they were doing it. As humanity really saw a single robot get possessed and devour the earth, and then said take two, thus finally getting the reason for why they would tempt fate and sign their own death warrants, as it turns out they were trying to work on a cure. You know, besides death. They create a software patch / MacGuffin that would free any robot infected by the solver, which great, perfect, just what Uzi needs. One problem, it doesn't actually solve humanity's.
The way on this planet too. Let's eat.
See, the issue here is that this patch seems mainly designed around removing sin from the systems of those it's infected, which, oh my god, that's why they dressed up like priests. They're dealing with sin. No notes? That's perfect. But they are only dealing with sin inside each individual robot. We don't know how this patch really works or how it worked, so while it could have been a stepping stone, Sin, as we've seen, apparently is running on some kind of cloud hive mind, being conscious and perceiving the events of what happened in the temple via the possessed drones. Hence how she knew any of this existed. She referred to it as them cutting her feed. As she could see through these robots, these weren't just straight copies of her. Which does beg the question, if this patch was used on the original Sin, would that just fix everything? Or has Sin evolved to such a point that any of her possessed robots can serve as a backup? There is a chance that the original Sin is the central processing unit, the nexus that allows all of her alters to alter reality. Alright, oh my god, say that one 10 times fast. So lots of questions on just what the real end goal for humanity was, if they had any, as in typical Murder Drones fashion, these geniuses are still fucking morons.
Is this guy important?
So yeah, Nori had progressed too far, Sin was getting her Freddy Krueger on, so they sent a doctor who was actually an intern to go get Yeva, who as we would discover later is a first successful subject for the patch, having been freed from Sin but keeping the dope powers. But the intern is gonna intern and assumes that they're gonna just kill Yeva, only for all of this to turn out to be a fake out, which I somehow noticed and got lucky and saw the flickers. Shit keeps going wrong, and we end on what looks like the intern's death and the end of this recording. And then we pull back to reveal something that was not what I thought it was at first. So the first time I watched this scene, the idea of this being Nori had not even entered my head, as while robots don't have the genes, but Uzi and her mom are pretty much identical. So I was not prepared to see a little heart monster wearing a beanie, cat-eared headphones, listening to Nightcore. So yeah, I thought we went from a flashback to a flash forward where Uzi got her heart ripped out. Only no, this is Nori, who's alive. Kinda. Like, this is Uzi's mom, and she somehow survived and somehow even got here. I did not predict this. This was not even on my bingo card, but she is honestly so good in this episode. And we catch her at first trying to find a way out of this godforsaken maze, with Uzi, N, and Tessa crashing to the bottom of the floor to join her after V sacrificed herself for them, causing N to freak out, only for his panic for his old crush to be replaced by worry for his new one. Like always, as Uzi is dangerously close from going from his girl to his sister. Yeah, Uzi doesn't have a lot of time left. So Tessa, who dresses like she's from Among Us and is the most sus, talking about how they'll have to kill Uzi to protect humanity, has been trying to recruit N to this cause, tries to get that ball rolling by suggesting that they just box and stow away Uzi till after the adventure, where nothing else will happen and she will be completely safe, wink wink. Only for N to stand tall, puff up his chest, only to immediately buckle and backslide as he is a professional appeaser. He says they're not going to kill Uzi, but he also can't bring himself to disagree with Tessa. And also, he won't explain the situation to Uzi, hence why everything is going wrong, leading N's attempts to be subtle to backfire horrendously.
Everything yet, but we're not gonna hurt you, okay?
As yeah, of course Uzi's gonna catch on to what N is trying not to cook, with the solver kicking in at the best worst time, with Uzi redirecting a black hole to cause a cave-in. And after a whole season of Uzi learning to let people in, she steps back and walks away from N, which yeah, that fits. But if we're talking about characters backsliding, N's needs to be studied, so let's.
Hey, no, I'm going to murder everyone. Brain check!
Now N has always been the most golden of golden retrievers. He's a good boy. Some would say the best boy. In spite of him wanting the best for everybody, and in spite of the fact that he doesn't have a bad bone in his body, he also committed literal genocide. This is a product of him being so nice that him imagining other people having ill intentions is almost a foreign concept. He's ready to see the best in everyone even when it's clearly not there, so then he starts making excuses. Humanity and Jay told him to wipe out the drones, so he did. N is accepting, he is loving, and we all love that about him. But he's also way too willing to go along with other people's crazy. That's why his arc at the start of the series begins with him realizing drones shouldn't be killed en masse, and that maybe, just maybe, the company is wrong and his friends suck. And then from there, we see him actually grow a backbone, going from obeying his crush and bully to obeying Uzi, to finally figuring out just how to put his foot down and to stand up for what he thinks is right. It's a small but very important character change. But then Tessa shows up, and suddenly Mr. Best Boy has to start making tough moral decisions and seems to be slipping back into old habits. As N, just like with V and J, they all trust Tessa. She was their friend. And while they had a rocky reunion, Mr. Benefit of the Doubt was willing to go along with her and believe what she tells him to a certain extent, allowing quote-unquote Tessa to tell him how bad things are on Earth, not really questioning this information, and not really questioning the job that they need to do. And this puts him in a place very similar to where he started, obeying others even when he has some doubts about what's happening. The only real difference is that Tessa has to pretend to have a moral argument, with N not really having any way to like push back and say like, okay, this isn't kind of what they need to do. He wants what's best for everybody, but is also easily swayed to make compromises and to hide secrets he doesn't want to keep, as he thinks it's for the greater good, and he is very much delaying making a decision. And this is what allows Tessa to take advantage of him to get what she wants, like she always has. So while good intention, him allowing Tessa to control the situation, to not fully explain what's going on to Uzi, it all represents a backslide for him to some of his just earlier behavior. So Uzi, picking up on his uncertainty, was kind of smart to step away. And I do wonder if Tessa is the one that caused the malfunction in the black hole, as while it looks like it's interrupting them about to box Uzi, it also separates the two, giving Tessa time to work on the both of them individually. But N made a mistake, and he realized it immediately.
Chef, trauma goes, and here you find from there.
Oh yeah, he knows. And all this setup though of him backsliding is very important as he is going to finally have to stand up to Tessa later, overcoming his own flaw and showing him prioritizing the people he chooses to care about over those he knew in the past and who are actually just using him now. Speaking of which, just to get a pet theory out of the way, V isn't dead.
Wandering around 'cause
I'm a good friend, and secrets are blackmail.
I know, shocking. The other guy in V's +1 are out in the cold because someone is texting the girl and she is texting back. And since she doesn't know any other people, the only real viable answer here is V. Maybe this is an old message, but after every character of importance has come back from the dead, I think it's more likely than not that V survived in some capacity, even if it's just as one of those heart crab things. But yeah, these two are, hold on. Thad and Lizzie are here, but Jay just blew up the other spaceship, stranding everyone on the planet. They can't escape, and it's the end times. And you know it is, as Khan is actually being useful.
End times! If my wife's closet is right, the planet's gonna try to eat us soon.
This dude is building his daughter's railgun, and I feel like that's the least he can do after, well, leaving her to die. Shit is getting real, gravity is getting finicky, and the whole planet is on a one-way trip to Sin's stomach. But it is good to see these three characters I only semi-remember pop up again. They kinda fell off in relevance very quickly, but none of them are terrible, so, well, one of them is. But I'm glad that they're being included. They're being set up to fight Jay, who actually confirms that all murder drones share the same bank of memories. They're not individual units, as her systems register the railguns as prior threats. So it has to know what happened with Uzi. Back to our regularly scheduled nightmare fuel, N is having a rough one. Now, fresh off of picking scaring away Uzi, his first thought when he wakes up is her, crying into the darkness to see if she's okay, because of course he would. He then decides to cut off his own arm to escape, with a saw, despite having a blade that cuts through robots like butter and a laser that turns everything into mush. But hey, any excuse we need to have him be terrified by his past sins.
You're one of the main reasons I wanted your team to retain your personalities.
Now, my first assumption here when I saw this thing that it was a new Sin. But since we later see Nori's hand possessed by Sin going into the abyss, the idea that this was just a copy that has managed to rebuild itself in the intervening years, it made semi-sense to me, especially with how the planet kept having its gravity turned on and off when we haven't seen anyone become like the primary host of the solver, but since we got that reveal later, this was probably just one Sin fucking with N's head and trying to control it, with us getting a huge reveal that low-key the story just kind of breezes past. Now, the running assumption that we are all led to believe is that humanity sent the murder drones to kill all the workers. That yes, while we were getting evidence that the drones were products of Sin's experiments, we never got any evidence to disprove the idea that humanity sent the drones. It always seemed like in the aftermath of Sin's destruction of Earth, the company managed to retrofit or re-engineer the murder drones to serve them. That maybe they just couldn't remove all of Sin's programming, hence the solver popping up after Jay died. However, now we know the truth. As we see, there's an army of murder drones attacking the humans, eating them, and we also got the confirmation that Tessa is actually Sin, who has been using Tessa's skin to masquerade as a human to get past all the biometric locks to mixed results. But we'll break down the foreshadowing for that later. Here, the reveal is that Sin has created them, mass-produced them, then the confirmation via a note that she didn't send the exterminators to wipe out all the drones. No, they were really just sent here to wipe out all the hosts of the solver, the ones that managed to escape her control and pose a potential threat to Sin later. So humanity, after all the hype, all of Uzi's rage is just gone at this point. We have not seen a single example of humanity doing anything post the explosion. It's been her this whole time, recontextualizing everything that's been happening in the story to this point. And this has the bonus effect of making everything in the story feel like it's truly been building to here. As yeah, this patch, this cabin, this lab, this is what Sin has been after this entire time, and this place might be the only one where they can find something to stop her. We also need to point out just how Sin's hug here is her attempted control N, only for the power of love and hacking to reject her, as Uzi's username flashes as the admin rejecting Sin's attempts to take him over. Because yeah, N is Uzi's property now.
He's his own person!
Like, I do find it cool that we see that there is some leftover hell from when they dove into N's mind, that facing his past with Uzi gave him some protection from Sin's influence. But really, this is just telling me that, yeah, even when they're not together, Uzi is still keeping him safe and showing how in spite of her being herself, N is still way better off thanks to knowing Uzi, and now this is his chance to choose for himself what he wants to do next. After he gets saved by Nori, of course. All of his interactions with her, though, perfect.
I promise to wait until you're ready to tell her yourself.
God, he's adorable. I don't know how Nori got down here without knowing how to get back up. Like, she had to crawl here after getting killed or just woke up here because reasons. What's really important is that we get more context on just what happened that day. That she was cured by Yeva, only for Sin to nuke the planet, killing all the humans. And after which she sent all the drones to kill the robots, and now everyone is doing their best to prevent the apocalypse. Nori, like, yeah, she is really just Uzi, plus a couple of years. So seeing her interact with N is great, as he really brings home the I messed up 20 seconds ago energy, having already taken an oath not to lie to Uzi anymore and pushing her mom to just tell her she exists, which she doesn't want to do, as like her daughter, Nori is a pessimist who can't imagine revealing the shit show that was her past to go over well with anyone, minus Khan, but they all have their flaws. Though her perception of Uzi freaking out, that's kind of has some basis in reality, as after Uzi sees the footage of what happened to her mom, she rips off her mother's necklace, as having only seen the worst day of Nori's life, the formerly intimate connection she felt through it, yeah, those feels have been kind of been poisoned as she found out what it really meant and what it was associated with. As when she saw her mom wearing it, it was when something else was wearing her. That said, and we do have to double back to the red flag party, Uzi is dating her mother's murderer, who attempted to kill her, her father, got most of her community. But after all that, I'm pretty sure she can spare a pass for her mom, as she already gave one to her dad for leaving her to die. Which I can't wait for Nori to find out about that.
Bite me.
Though while I adore this interaction, I will take this moment of cuteness to ruin it by talking about one of my few gripes with this episode, which is Doll's death. Now, I've said this before in a separate video, I have scruples with how the show handles death in it, as while I fully embrace them using kills for spectacle a la fatalities or slasher films, these are robots so you can do way crazier, gorier stuff to them than if they were organics. But after a while, the series hits a point where unless you're a main character, I don't really care when you die, as there's just so many of them. It ends up giving the show a haunted house horror type vibe. This isn't something that it's truly scary. At best, it's mostly just really exciting, which I am fine with. However, when you combine that with the fact that people are starting to come back from the dead, I've now hit a point where I'm not even sure I can trust the fact that Doll is actually gone, or she'll just come back later somehow. And even if she's gone, I'm not in love with it, as to me this is a very anticlimactic death. But for a character that has been so integral to the story, her getting got off screen feels underwhelming. It feels like we're throwing away a lot of potential just to raise the stakes a little bit. So I end up not really caring for it. Doll, after all the buildup, all of her parallels with Uzi, her being just a massive shit starter, she just dies, and right now I can't fully believe she's dead. So Doll's death is like the one moment here where I'm just like,
that can't be it. Where's the rest of it?
I feel like there should be more here, there might be, but either way you cut, I feel disconnected from a moment that should be raising the tension of the episode. Instead, all I got is,
okay.
But yeah, Doll is gone. She got murdered by Tessa, who is now trying to kill Uzi, only for N to step in and in his coldest moment, kills Tessa when she starts trying to monologue at him.
You knew about the patch, yes or no? One chance.
You know why I keep you around here?
And I love this, as N put the pieces together to realize Tessa has been lying to him at best, and he gives her a choice to be honest, and when she ignores him, he just offs her, fully breaking free of his old friend group and choosing for himself, not just for Uzi. Though, just to point this out, Tessa started quoting Sin's speech about him earlier about why she keeps him around, so that might have been the other hint to why, okay, I need to ice her immediately, and either way, this was very cathartic. And then after that, we got nice sweet NUZI, oh shit.
Really sweet, big brother.
Never mind. So yeah, this is the best action scene in the entire series. There might be moments like the dance I like just a little bit more, they are iconic, but Sin busting out all the stops with N and Nori just doing their best to stay alive. I love all of it. It is so hype, it is so action-packed, it moves so fast, and it is just kicking all the ass. And I like how when you look at it, you actually see that they are kind of a match for Sin here. But N's reluctance to hurt Uzi means that you can't ever go for the kill. Sin leans into this and starts messing with him, like forcing his blade to dig into Uzi's neck. This is torture and probably her being petty for the decapitation that just happened. Though the creme de la creme of all this when they start busting out the black holes and like, what do you want me to say? This shit is just so cool. I feel like the first time I watched this, I was a little bit lost, but the more I go back to it, the more I like it. This is a true showstopper. It's all of Glitch's technical prowess on full display, and yeah, it's hype. And now it's over, so let's talk about those feels. Now, I've already done a video about these two, maybe you've seen it. It just hit 1 million views, yes. I'm shocked too, but I adore Uzi and En together. They are just the right combo of cynical but immature with a golden retriever who cares way too much. NUZI is just always fun as we get to see Uzi opening up while En finally starts growing a backbone with all his warmth going to someone who clearly needs it. They just started holding hands last step, but have a brief moment of panic where they backslide into their worst tendencies. We see En come back swinging, committing to being his own person and making his own decisions, while Uzi, once she regains control after screaming about En putting the world's most vague label on their status, hugs him after all the crazy they just went through. Like how she just yeeted her mother and she didn't know it till she did. But she likes En's hugs, so yeah, this is cute. I love it. And while this is a massive step forward for their relationship, it is a great episode to solidify their individual arcs and what they mean to one another. It solidifies the idea of them as a couple, even if it's not really progressing it.
Uzi Dorman. Those things killed your frickin' mother!
And outing their thing to their mom was honestly just so funny. Nori slaps some sense back into her daughter. Sin has eaten plants, but even she has never seen such nonsense. En wrote his confession in his own blood, because even when he needs to distract Sin, he can't actually say the thing. But you know how he feels, so this is just comedy gold. Especially when it's just the mom pointing out how Uzi is infatuated with the thing that either killed her or helped make it happen. Like any other story, this would be such a massive big deal. This would be what the whole relationship would be about, but here in Murder Drones, the tone, Uzi understanding En's situation about how, well, he really didn't have that much choice in his actions. All this makes it so this isn't really an issue, that they really need to focus on the real issue of the humans, aka Sin. So truly, while the on paper pitch for these two hooking up is questionable, when you see the final product, it's just endearing. All En did to protect her even when he was fighting her, Uzi's angsty teen popping through, the fact that she's the reason that Sin can't control En anymore, makes so when it's all said and done, Uzi choosing to save En and her last words being "die mad," I cackled. It's so perfect for these two. Uzi thinks she's about to die and she still won't allow herself to be sappy and say "I love you," goodbye, or anything like that. She pulls her version of a pro gamer move, helping the guy she has been hanging out with, then going out on her own terms. It's just so Uzi, and I love it. Even though I don't think she's gonna die. And honestly, if she did, this would be a solid ending for her. Of course, we do have to talk about the other elephant in the room.
Get snuck upon.
Yeah, Tessa is just Sin wearing her skin, which really makes sense when you look back on just everything that's happened up until this point. How the human-only computers kept rejecting her, the raptors being perplexed when they first saw her. They kept switching between friendly dingo and kill all AI. So when it was trying to scan her, we thought we were doing How to Train Your Dragons. But really, this thing was just legitimately confused on what it was seeing, so it defaulted to attacking. Not to mention that Tessa got bit in an environment that seems to require her to wear a spacesuit, only for her to never stress that it was broken, nor show any real pain after she was bitten, besides that a momentary, oh no, it got me. Though that stuff is subtle, they start really leaning into the stuff heavily here. Like when Uzi tries to use her powers only for the solver to say, no, this is a non-interactable object. As people who have been possessed by the solver can't use their powers on one another. And then just for the fact that Tessa isn't human, though she could have been a cyborg, she was also strong enough to lean on her blade and overpower a robot. All the hints were there for what Tessa actually was. But even if you know it's coming, the horror of seeing Sin wearing Tessa's skin is just enough to shock you on its own. This design, it's terrifying. And after all the shadows of us never seeing Tessa and what she looked like, the fact that this is how we see her, major creep vibes, and I cannot wait for the next episode.
Space. Yes, please, space. Go to space. Hey, space. I'm gonna go to space.
Uzi seems to be trapped in space, and I have no idea what exactly is going on here. I think my first idea is that, okay, they're creating a black hole to devour the planet like Sin did with Earth, but seeing as Uzi popped in what looks like space, I'm more willing to bet that all this effort has been just Sin trying to create a portal so that she can bring herself or her army through it, or maybe just drag the whole planet into her black hole via the portal. These things, though, apparently take a lot of effort, as Sin still needs a spaceship to get to this planet, and as having Jay prep their ship to take off. Whatever happens next is gonna be something, and I am just so fucking ready for it. Alright, what did you guys think of the episode? Was this everything you've been waiting for? I know Digital Circus is the new hotness, but I'm still glad to see Murder Drones getting some love and continuing to up their game. But theorize down below where you think the story's gonna go. What do you imagine a season 2 would look like? Or are you just happy with this being a one-season show? I'm holding out till the finale to make that call, but I would love to get your thoughts. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Peace out, love you all, but I love NUZI more.